Welcome everyone, welcome. Whoop. Welcome to this video here on Moge. Let me get out my notes. Welcome to this video here on Moge. Alright, just gonna get right into it. You see the video title. I haven't made it yet, obviously, but it might be shorter than the one I give out just because of space constraints. I haven't tested it yet, but you know, yeah, that's the thing. Anyway, welcome everyone. Welcome to Moge. My name is Chimaoge. You can also call me Moge. I'm the founder and owner of this enterprise. Both this particular network and the larger media company it's a part of. I know it can be a little odd to see someone with the media company and they're the only person running it, but you know, that's the most accurate way to describe what I have here. You know, think about it. In theory, one person could run, you know, say a restaurant chain. Say you had Superman running all over the place. Well, I'm Superman. Anyway, think of it like that. So, let's go. The title of this video is I want to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson's personal and public failure that happened in 2025, sorry. I want to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson's personal and public failure that happened in 2025. So that's what it is. Let me just get into it. Let me give 5 points to roughly describe the issue. First, in 2025, he was fully exposed to the deadbeat dad. He was fully exposed to the deadbeat dad. His oldest daughter, at least his oldest publicly acknowledged daughter, came out and said that he hadn't been in her life and that it was his fault. And, you know, he proceeded to then come out, you know, not give evidence to the contrary that was sufficient, and then insult her as a deadbeat dad would, okay? You know, really disgraceful. And then there was a messy family situation that ensued, in which she was clearly a victim and he didn't help her and he didn't do anything to clear it up. If he even tried, didn't make the effort public, that's deadbeat dad behavior, so it's disgraceful. Anyway, that's one. The second thing is his school, the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, FDMG, almost got shut down. It almost got shut down, it appears, due to a combination of financial issues and, you know, not meeting state of Delaware regulations, something like that. I'm gonna go back and find the details more, and not all the details were public, but he came out and said they were in trouble. So that was not good. And given the way he bigged up that school up, the way he's done it for over a decade, and how much attention is on it, that's a travesty. And the third one is similar, but it's for him personally. He was broke. According to his own words, he couldn't access any digital funds. Maybe he had a pile of cash, like like some sort of TV movie villain. He just stacked up the cash. Maybe he was doing that, but you know, you can't make all your transactions in cash in the modern Western society. So I don't even know if you can do that outside the West. Well, maybe you can in some places. But anyway, he didn't say I'm fine because I got it covered in cash. So he was broke. And that shouldn't happen to a famous man over 50. A famous man over 50, especially one who also has a PhD, one of those letters and pieces of paper from Caucasian run institutions to say you're a person. If you have that in tandem with that, and again, I want to emphasize in tandem with that, because when you look at the data, those papers and letters by themselves, if you isolate the variable, do not increase your economic viability very much. But since he has that in tandem with being over 50, being famous, he shouldn't be broke. And really the biggest factor is the fame, but when you add the other stuff, shouldn't end up broke. And if something crazy happened, he should have come out and said, hey, I was a victim of a crime. I was a victim of this crazy thing. This is what's going on. There's no such thing as I'm just broke at that age. You should have something that gives you consistent income and or ability to obtain resources at that age. Because I want to start emphasizing more. We got to get rid of this culture of saying the only way to pay for things is with money. That doesn't make sense. Money is not the only possible means of exchange. I know a lot of people like myself learned in school growing up that bartering systems are inefficient. That doesn't make sense. Just think of how many people don't have cash on them, but they could do something for you. Anyway, that's stupid. So yeah, he went broke. Point four, I said this on the live stream. I'm just gonna speak through this. Is disgusting. He had romantic scandals with black women and doled out vile and self-telling on insults. What do I mean? He was accused of various forms of misconduct by multiple black women. One came out and said they had a romantic interaction. He came out and said that she was not physically appealing and that he had engaged in a romantic interaction with her and said so in graphic terms and said so in such a way as if that would only be a negative for her. So just a strange individual. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, that's a personal failure, a failure of the mind, a failure of integrity, a failure of the ability to properly engage in relationships. Anyway, then point five, white woman hypocrisy, Joe Budden podcast. I'm just going to say this. Dr. Umar has reasonably been a proponent of the idea that black men should not date white women. Because it's such a hot button issue, I will just quickly add 2 cents. This is not my full opinion on it, because to give your full opinion on that situation is to write 10 books, okay? I'm just going to say a couple things. One, generally speaking, because of the nature and effects of racism, it is difficult for black people and white people, as in people who are actually white, to engage in healthy romantic relationships. And that is really the fault of the white people. Okay, I want to say that. That's true. But there are some exceptions. I can't say there's 0 exceptions. Second, most people, and I'm going to go out and say this, most people who are white-skinned are not actually white. There are a lot of mixed people who fly under the radar. Again, because of, the white part of their lineage and the nature of racism, that can make relationships complicated, but you can't put that in the same bucket as people who are just full-on white. That's just something else. So that's a related but different complication. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not writing that book today, because a big thing people have to get across is that my thing is, why are you engaging in relationships with people who hurt you? That's the bigger question. We shouldn't be obsessing over this so much. And I'm just going to leave it at that, so that the other book doesn't begin about people who take themselves out of the picture with crazy love lives. Anyway, so Umar's been saying all that, but then he got on the Joe Budden podcast and said, I had a crush on a white girl, she had a crush on me. Or, well, he said she had a crush on me in college and I took her to the Million Man March. That's crazy. That man must still do that, investigate. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that before I explore too much. Now, here are my 4 points on this in reaction to that. Again, that was just the summary of the issue. Hey everyone, sorry. My video cut off because I got a phone call. Let's continue. So, as I was saying before, that was just the summary of the issue. And now these are my points. One, again, this is my reaction to that whole mess that was there. One, it shows his crime. Again, my notes are very rudimentary, so they are. Forgive me. Feeling weak. It shows his crime. What do I mean by that? Just that whole mess and his part in it shows that Umar is a criminal individual. And I mean criminal from a moral and natural standpoint. Perhaps he hasn't actually broken U.S. law. And again, U.S. law is not really a great barometer of criminality, because that law itself is a crime. It criminalizes things that shouldn't be illegal, and it leaves alone things that should be criminalized. So it's just a mess. Anyway, this shows is criminal. Two, That whole nonsense makes me question what was behind all the interviews he's done and is still doing, because he's been back on the interview circuit for the last few months. So my questions are things like who's supporting him, why are they overlooking these things, and who has been denied an opportunity to allow Umar to speak. Anyway, because there's sure there are better people than that. Three, it makes me think that we must all finally resolve the school issue. We must all finally go in and get full information about what's going on there. I'm tired of only hearing from his stupid critics who just basically gossip about it. We need to go and get hard evidence, just so we know what we're dealing with the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. And then for all that nonsense makes me question Umar's goals. What is the goal of someone who comes out and says, I love the children, I want to open a school for the children, as a deadbeat dad? What are the goals of someone who comes out and says interracial marriage is bad, interracial relationships is bad, comes up with questionable terms to talk about women who are, I guess women who are not as dark as possible. I've seen him call black women snow bunnies, but anyway, it's ridiculous. You don't need to slur. Also, again, a white woman is still a woman, so you got to be careful there with certain criticisms. I'm not one of those people who would suggest that because someone's a woman they can't do anything wrong, because that contingent exists. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, when you're criticizing a woman or a group of women, you don't need to attack womanhood itself, which is what he kind of does. So there's just a lot there. And sometimes I would wonder, is he just, tired and he just says the wrong words because he's trying to get us to an overall point of don't have these racist relationships. But after a while, it's like, no, it seems like he just, I don't know, he wants the world to be one big old boys school. Anyway, so I'll leave it at that. Now, let me give the bonus piece of information, the mercy, the Ibera. Sing if you want to. Sing if you want to. It's a good thing to do. Then for the hand of God, I'm adding these in. The hand of God. Let me define Pan-Africanism. So Pan-Africanism basically, and I'm doing this, of course, because Umar is a big proponent of Pan-Africanism, just a related issue to know about. It's wrapped up in the school thing as well. Pan-Africanism is a set of ideologies and movements centered around uniting black people and or African people around the idea and or place of Africa somehow, especially as an origin point or common point of connection. Anyway, that's what it is. Kind of complicated and vague, but it is kind of complicated and vague. Again, a lot of those movements and ideas are good, but then there are some bad ones as well. All right, then for the double question. First, do you think FDMG will ever open? Do you think FDMG will ever open? Second question, how many biological children do you think Umar has? How many biological children do you think Umar has? Thank you very much. There'll be a little interlude and then you'll see part 2 of the video when I do all this again. See you. Abum kamalu kika, abum kamalu ha, kamalu kaka, abum kamalu amadio ha, waka, kalakano, amadio ha, kamalu ha, abum yishi kalakano. Let's go. The title of this video: I want to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson's personal and public failure that happened in 2025. I want to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson's personal and public failure that happened in 2025. Here's a 5-point summary of that fiasco. Point 1, Dr. Umar was exposed as a deadbeat dad. His oldest publicly acknowledged child, his oldest daughter, came out and said that he had not been present in her life and that it was his fault. He did not provide sufficient evidence to the contrary, and he insulted her publicly. On top of that, a family fiasco ensued in which she was clearly the victim and he did not come to her aid. Deadbeat dad. Point 1. Point 2. Dr. Umar Johnson's school almost got shut down due to his own account. The Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy was almost shut down by Dr. Umar's own account. And I'll leave it at that. That was terrible. Point 3. By his own account, Dr. Umar went broke. He said he couldn't access digital funds, and he made no mention of cash rules everything around me coming to save him. So he was broke. And for a man of that age, fame, and I guess academic certification all in one, that's a travesty. Shouldn't happen. Point 3. Point 4. This is vile. I'm not even going to look at the page when I say this one. I'm just going to say Umar exposed his inward vile criminality, but by just doing a lihan. What does that mean? Some black women came out and said he had harmed them. He basically confirmed it and then said, it makes me good. Disgusting. Anyway, and then I'm going to keep the page over there, because this is just disgusting. I'm just gonna say it like this. Most people, if not everyone watching this video, is familiar with Dr. Umar Johnson and his talking of point about interracial dating. You've heard me talk about it before. Well, I guess recently. It's not something I really talk about. Just one, don't harm yourselves. What are you people doing? How can you harm yourself in the romantic area? What's going on with you? You harm yourself in the romantic area. But yeah, that's not good. Racism, people, generally speaking, you know, it's hard to have romantic relations with white people. One, it's not impossible, it's hard. It's not something you should strive towards. A better way of saying it is you shouldn't be desperate to have romantic relationships with white people who have not just shown themselves to be completely black on the inside. And being black on the inside does not mean you put on some Jordans and a backward hat. That means you've publicly shown yourself to be a proper person. You know, just don't be desperate for that. Really, like most black people really are not going to be in a relationship with white people and have to be healthy. White people are just not at the point, you know, where that's going on. Point 2, just because someone has white skin does not mean they're white. There are many mixed people who fly under the radar for various reasons. Sometimes it's their fault, sometimes it's not. That's a complicated situation, but it's not as dire as the white person thing. It should just be put in a different category. And I'll leave it at that. But anyway, you got that situation going on. Umar gets on the Joe Budden podcast in 2025 and says that in college, a white woman had a crush on him and he took her to the moon. I mean, he probably still does it. Anyway, that's a hypocrite. That's crazy. All right, the page is back. Let's just deal with this side. You see what I'm saying? Let's take away the side that has some of this vile criminality. Let me just deal with this, because I need to be able to think. Anyway, so here are my 4 pieces of reaction to that summary. First, All that nonsense shows that Dr. Umar is a moral and natural criminal. All of that nonsense shows that Dr. Umar is a moral and natural criminal. Okay. And when I say moral criminal, I'm not saying he's a criminal that is moral. I'm saying he's a criminal in the realms of objective morality. I'm just saying that maybe he has not violated the incomplete nonsense, which is U.S. law, but he's a criminal. 2, that nonsense makes me question Dr. Umar Johnson's interviews. What's behind them? Who set him up? Who validated him? Why? Why have they let his nonsense slide? I'm sure some of his mud has been on the floors of some of these people. Why did they ignore it? Anyway. Order in the court. Anyway, point 3. We just got to figure out what's going on with FGMG. What is that? I'm tired of hearing about it. Is it how deep is the fraud? Is it recklessness? What is going on there? Just figure it out. It's nonsense. And point 4. It just makes me ask, what are Umar's goals? What's your goal, bro? Why are you gonna come out and talk all this nonsense and do the opposite things? Is that evil? Come on now. You come out and say, I love your children, and then you're deadbeat dad. You come out and say, don't date white women, and then you take them to the Million Man March. Anyway, that's it. Bonus piece of information. Sing if you want to. Sing if you want to. The hand of God. I'm going to define Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is a group of ideologies and movements centered around uniting black people, variously defined, around the idea and or location of Africa as a point of unity, and generally also a point of origin. That's what it is. Kind of vague, but you know. Most of the ideas in there are good. It's just there's some bad ones. It doesn't all unite. We really need to parse that up and figure out what's going on. Now, here's a double question. First, do you think that the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy will ever open? Do you think that the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, aka FDMG, will ever open? And point 2, question 2, whatever. Umar just destroyed my mind. How many biological children do you think Umar has? How many biological children do you think Umar has? Thank you very much.